All right. We are here with one John Lewis III here. Thank you so much for being with me today, John.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. I appreciate that.
Yeah. The topic of grief is something that I think it's a universal topic because we're gonna suffer or have grief in our life in various situations. But I'd love to learn your pathway towards understanding grief and how your different direction related to it.
Sure. Let me start with the story of why I got into it. It was purely on accident. So we'll say it that way. It occurred in 2015 when things started. My wife unfortunately passed away. And when she passed away, we had two children, two daughters, and we were in a great financial situation. But as soon as she passed, things changed. And I had to look at a few different things. For the beginning stages of going through the grief, I did the traditional route, mourned, spent my time doing illicit things like drinking a lot and indulging in drugs because for that point, you just simply wanted to forget what you were going through. The unfortunate part about doing that is that the monster becomes so much bigger when you do make the attempts to run away from the issue. After roughly about 2 years, I decided to make some changes. I had, there's something called divine intervention that I believe in. And it happened because I was working in the insurance world and I had a client that I had to see who wanted a burial insurance policy. So we got to talking and I asked him because I just noticed this look on his face. And I asked him if he had lost somebody recently. And he said, I was with my wife for 40 years and she died. And then his comment to me was, you wouldn't understand that. You're a young man. What he didn't know was that my wife had passed away just a few years earlier. And so I was talking to him about that. And by the end of our conversation, he asked me, he said, do you really think this insurance thing is what you should be doing? Because you seem to have a good handle on talking about loss and things like that. So I jumped into my car and kind of forgot about it. But later on that evening, I was dead scrolling through the internet and I saw this advertisement about life coaching. And once I saw that advertisement, I read into it a little further and I looked at my present skill set, which was being able to talk to people and having no problem speaking in crowd, things like that. So I decided to morph this into more of a motivational speaking type of thing. And that's the route I went in the beginning. Over time, I started seeing so many other people that have been able to find a way to transform their grief into something different. It started by me thinking about Buster Douglas, and because somebody was talking about Buster Douglas's situation, how he knocked out Tyson. I researched and found out that his mother passed away a few days prior, and that his son's mother was suffering from ovarian cancer, and that he recently went through a divorce, and that he ended up going through that. Plus, he was declared a 42-1 underdog. After getting knocked down by Tyson in the 10th round, this man woke up in the 11th and decided to knock out Mike Tyson. He took a combination of the grief that he was going through, and instead of taking the approach of, why did this happen to me? He took the approach of, how can I use this? So that kind of became that, and a few other stories became the cornerstone of what I needed to look at Stop taking the woe is me approach to that and start taking the onus of responsibility, not blame. I tell my clients all the time, you must parse the difference between blame and responsibility. Responsibility is something that you can control, and responsibility becomes an open door to freedom. Blame is someone else casting their responsibilities on you and forcing you to take responsibility for their act. That's why you have to separate the two. Along with that came the understanding of grief. The emotions of grief are energy. And when I talk about energy, I'm not speaking about something mystical or something cosmic. I'm talking about concrete scientific evidence of the fact that the emotions of grief that are manifested in our brains are pure electromagnetic energy. And according to the laws of science, the law of conservation of energy in physics, you have the ability to use energy. Energy never dies, but it can be manipulated. Manipulation can come in any form. For a person that is navigating through grief, that form of manipulation, that catalyst, is belief and faith. I like to use a visual with my clients concerning that. I take a regular game of pool or billiards, and I explain to them the concept of transference. That this game is all about transference of energies. And then I let the person know that the grief is the pool stick, and that you at rest, your potential energy is the white cue ball. When that connection is made, you go into motion. And when you go into motion, you have the ability to do one or two things. Correct by hitting another ball into a pocket, helping to win for that time frame. Doing that allows you to understand that you have the strength to be able to help someone else. And that's what I talk about when representing having the cue ball hit another ball into a pocket. But at the same time, you are also strengthening yourself, because each ball that you connect with that goes into a pocket creates a win for you as the cue ball. Because cue ball's goal is not to go into a pocket, it's to help others go into a pocket. And when that happens, you develop strength within yourself, and you also help someone else to be able to manage what they're going through. They can now look at your circumstance and they can say, if he or she can do it, I have the ability to do it. Understanding that, again, metaphorically speaking, using the concepts of the emotions of grief as energy, we have the ability to manipulate that energy. And when we manipulate that energy, we can transform it or transfer it into a form of fuel that can allow us to move forward. They can allow us to progress. And in that process, we help others. That is what we as humans are actually here to do, is to help someone to move forward. And I let people know that when you open yourself up to realize that the challenges that you've gone through are truly a benefit and not a curse. Now, the action itself is not the benefit. For instance, if someone passed away, that's not the benefit. The benefit is the time that you had with them. The time that you have with them is valuable. Celebrate the dash in the middle of their tombstone instead of celebrating the end date. Because the end date is not a celebration. That's actually a dirge. But the dash in the middle is a celebration because you get to enjoy all the incredible times that you have with that person. You get to reminisce over what you have achieved and how they have helped you get to that next level. It becomes a celebration because now it gives you strength. They would not want you to be in a difficult situation. They would not want you to be hurt over their loss. So now you get to say, I love you and I miss you. But let me show you what I'm able to do. And I want to thank you so much for giving me the energy to do it.
Incredible. John, you have such a way about yourself with explaining this. What's the reception you get when combining the focus of physics into the transformative energy of grief? How do people receive that?
It can go 50-50, but it was interesting because I referred to this article that came from NPR, and I give it to my clients a lot. And they say, never invite a physicist to a funeral because a physicist will tell you about the energy and things of that nature. But the reality is, we are all energy. I was just having a conversation with a young lady that practiced Reiki, and she talked to me about the fact that iron, for instance, iron came from two galaxies actually colliding with one another. And the fallout created created iron. And iron is also in each and every person, each and every entity. Therefore, we are all interconnected in some way, shape, or form. What we need to understand is that because we are interconnected, we have value in being able to assist one another. We have a 1 in 400 trillion chance of actually being born. So that means all 8 billion of us on this quote unquote crowded planet have hit the lottery of life. And since we all have hit the lottery of life, that means, think about it, during the time where we had to rush down to the egg, we had to fight off 1 million versions of us in the way of sperm cells. There were versions of us that could have been president. There were versions of us that could have created the next big thing, could have cured cancer. But we got into the egg. Since we got into the egg, is our future supposed to be, quote unquote, and again, not disparaging any job, but if you're creating your life as a UPS driver, then maybe you should think about something. Was I placed on this earth to simply be a UPS package handler? Or was I placed on this earth to enjoy my job and to find out how to make it better? If I make the decision that I want to stay with the company, I need to find out how to maximize the gift that I have been given, the gift of being able to drive UPS deliveries. How can I make that better to not only help my company, help myself grow, become a better version of myself in the process? Or maybe I might need to looking at entrepreneurialism. I have an idea And I need to explore that idea. I need to find a way to make myself better. And in the process, it goes right back to the scenario I talked about, transference with the cue ball to any other pocket ball. You get to help someone in the process, and in helping someone else in the process, you also help yourself. You strengthen yourself, increase your levels of resilience, because you have now figured out that what I must do is take the fact that I was actually gifted of being born, and now I need to figure out what skill sets, what talents I have that can be of help to other members of society. That's really what it comes down to. And not to interrupt, but that's where you take the concept of grief empowerment, which is an oxymoron, but you're taking that and now you're saying, I understand that the challenges that I've been manifested, I've been blessed to have, because you have another choice. If you're dead, you don't have to worry about the challenges. But I'm sure death comes with a whole host of its own problems. So you have a choice to navigate the hardships of life or to navigate the perceived ease of death.
It's definitely, there's a lot of philosophy in that and those statements and in the discussion. I wanted to talk a little bit briefly that beyond just the grief of someone you love passing away, because clearly there's other forms of grief too, losing a friendship, losing a job, whatever it may be. Are you taking that same approach with people and those other forms of loss?
Actually, yes, I do. I have a story for each and almost every scenario that occurs. For instance, the one story I love to tell is the story of Michael Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg, he worked for Salomon Brothers 12 years and was fired from that company. Well, consequently, he has now become worth over $96 billion and has the empire of the Bloomberg empire. But none of that would have happened if he hadn't gotten fired. So I explain to clients that it's all about looking for the blessings in the broken pieces. I often say you cannot unscramble an egg. You can't. But if you have a forward mindset, you can create an incredible omelet. And an incredible omelet tastes so much better than broken eggs. So the reality is, understand that the challenges are a reality, but how you choose to see the challenge will allow you to either move forward or allow the challenge to anchor you down.
I think it'd be good at this part to talk about just some, maybe some tangible things, some little bit of things you could tell people. It is every day, somewhere in this world, someone's going through powerful grief right now. Someone somewhere right now is experiencing tremendous loss. What's the first thing they can do when
The
as
first,
this process in this process?
the first thing I recommend is that you have to start with acknowledging the truth. It has happened, and you cannot go backward. You do not have a time machine, and you cannot change what has happened, because you cannot change what has happened, accept the loss, and then work on looking at opportunities from that loss, from that circumstance. That's the first of the two-part series of that. The next thing that you want to do is to find a way to better yourself. And that may be in a way of affirming yourself, constantly disregarding the thoughts in your mind that are giving you that negative feedback, that are saying you're not good enough, that are saying that you're the reason that this happened. You now have to say, be quiet, I have to move forward, and here's what I'm going to do. And each action you start to commit towards forward progress, it actually lowers the voices of that negativity. Another thing you have to do is honestly create some type of self-program. You have to maybe exercise, meditation, walking, gardening, getting yourself out, giving yourself, increasing your endorphins, increasing your serotonin level, allowing yourself to understand that there is a physical element that grief can impose upon a person. It's very easy for grief to control the mind and to place you in a situation of negativity. And you will have to fight to make sure that it doesn't stay that way. It will be that way, but you cannot let it stay that way. And doing things like exercise, mindfulness practices, those are different areas that you can explore to help strengthen your resilience, to help strengthen your desires and your abilities to want to move forward. That is the third element that I talk with many of my clients about. The last element, which is the most important, it's belief. Because without belief, nothing will be obtained. You must understand that there will be tons of hardships. This cycle ebbs and flows. You must have the wherewithal to understand that during those challenging times, these are lessons. They're not punishments. They're lessons that are teaching you how to become a better version of yourself. And each time you traverse that challenge, you can actually pat yourself on the back. And when you do that enough times, no matter what the voices tell you, you now have evidence to disprove anything that those voices are saying because you've done it. And you combine that with the fact that, like I said before, you can always research people that have done this already. There are so many people that have been able to navigate what we would almost consider impossible circumstances to come back and become a better version of themselves, a 2.0 version of themselves.
John, I got to tell you, man, you are a poet. You are a philosopher. And you have said this many times clearly. You have lived this many times, and you've been gracious enough to give some exceptional advice and a pathway for people. How can people get more from you through websites, other things, your coaching services? Please let them know now so they can get that.
You can go to my website, jl3motivation.com, and you can set up an appointment with me. I'm on all the social medias. Sure, I'm everywhere. But you can also simply email me at jl3motivation.com. It's on my website, or you can simply send me an email, jl3 at jl3motivation.com. It makes it very easy to be able to touch base with me because I'll be very honest with you. Grief is one of those challenging situations where you are not people are not beating down your door. I always have an open policy to be able to have that conversation with a person. I've also had to learn that's the best way to be able to reach people because you now have the ability to take a one-on-one approach. So I do one-on-one consultations. I also, on my website, you can set up some time where I can do a conference or speak. I do motivations. I let people know that this is not just something that is a fly by night circumstance. This is something that I will hold your hand and I will help you to walk through the challenges that you are going through. And that's the core of my one-on-one consultations with the group development theory. When it comes to working with businesses or organizations, I let them know that I can do motivations and I can break that down into workshops where I can actually do workshops for the groups and things like that. And I tell them, so there is no one particular package. I listen to their needs and then I formulate a program around those needs. Go from there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. It was enlightening, literally, and wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, John. And I can't wait to put this out. Appreciate you, man.
Dr. Parker, I appreciate you because, like I said, keeping it real, it's not every day you have the opportunity to speak with someone who can help you forward your circumstance, especially when it comes to dealing with something like grief. So thank you.